Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, December 2nd, still 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Welcome to Garrick. Welcome to Mark, Hodge, and the Porter. We're going to get things done today. And good gracious, what a weekend that was, huh? Still basking, by the way. This podcast covers the national champions. And if you note my avatar there, still basking for over 365 days, which is a lot of basking. And we are very thankful. Got a great show for you today. We're going to kind of talk about the game. There are certain games maybe you wouldn't discuss as long as this one. We are going to discuss it. We're going to bask in it. Then we're going to give you a quick primer because tomorrow is signing day. And Garrick will give you all the intrigue you need to know heading into that. I'm not sure it's going to be as intrigue-filled as we once thought. And then we're going to check out some great video that Mark did from Buckeye in the Sky. 2-video week. First video was third down conversion reel. That's how many they converted. There's a couple fourth downs in there, too, that you might remember that we're going to go over. And then we'll take all your questions. So if you have recruiting questions, questions about the coaching carousel, questions about the game, we will get to those at the end of the show. Garrick. Bill Kurelic was 0-4 in his last 4 meetings with Michigan. You show up, you're 1-0. I call that good hiring. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, I didn't do anything, at least on the field. But I will take some stolen valor credit nonetheless. No, it was fun. I mean, was fortunate enough to be there in the press box, witnessed it. And frankly, all the narratives over the past 4 years that Michigan fans and press just surrounding that Michigan's the tougher team just went out the window on Saturday. I thought the Ohio State offensive line, quite frankly, kicked the tail of Michigan. You talk about that 20-play drive that took almost 12 minutes, even though it only ended in a field goal. And that just is the ultimate example right there that Ohio State just enforced their will. And I will give Ohio State credit for this too. They are a mentally resilient, really tough team because that first quarter, it would be very natural to, after that long run by Jordan Marshall, the field goal, and then Julian Sain throws his first interception in who knows how long, to just get in the back of your mind, oh no, here we go again. It's happening again. What is it about this game that we just can't get over? Nobody ever had that body language from the sidelines. The defense stepped up, limited Michigan to a field goal on both situations. And then really the Buckeyes just, over the next 3 quarters, just displayed that they were the far better team. And, I mean, they've been the far better team against anybody they've ever played this year. They probably will, knock on wood, continue to be that way going forward through the season. But you come out of that game feeling that Ryan Day has a handle on this rivalry. He has a handle on Ohio State. And I wrote a column on Bucknuts that you really have to feel good for Ryan Day because this was really the last box that needed to be checked by him to earn, I mean, you can never say 100%, but damn near 100% approval rating of Ohio State fans because, yes, he was on a 15-game winning streak after the most unfathomable loss last year that you could imagine. Then he comes back, rattles off 4 straight playoff wins in what's the greatest run in college football history. Starts off the year 11-0 and takes it to the rival of the team that, narrative fair or not, people said he could not beat. And he and the Ohio State defense, offense, coaching staff kicked Michigan's ass. I know it's a family podcast, but let's call it like it is. And yeah, I mean, the vibes are good right now in Buckeye land. And I mean, I'm sure there will be a podcast later in the week to break down the matchup with Indiana. That's going to be a fun Big Ten championship. Arguably the best matchup on paper the Big Ten championship has ever had, considering that divisions just went by the wayside, and it was either Ohio State or Michigan beating the crap out of some team from the Big Ten West back in the day. But yeah, it's hard not to really like what you saw, and I'm sure Mark's going to really get into what really happened down in the film, and I'm excited to hear his breakdown.
Yeah, there's so much we could talk about just in what you said there, the storylines and such. But Mark, your thoughts on the game. I will say you were pretty accurate after the first quarter. Your thought was they were going to open up a can. And I think you can make the argument that it would have been a lot worse if the weather would have been better. But Mark, your thoughts on the game?
First, I noticed you always start off with Basking. I think it was Basking with an asterisk until that game was over, because you truly couldn't fully submerge yourself into the glory of a impeachable season and moments without getting Michigan checked off the list.
Fair.
I am always oddly unconfident. With as much film as I break down, I'm always like, well, anybody could get us and anything can happen. You guys kind of know that I don't always wear the rose-colored glasses. I think I talked to Garrick the day before the game, and I was like, this is over. And people around me, I was like, bet it. What is it, 10 and a half? Bet it. And then when they went down 6-0 with a couple little fluky plays, I was like, bet it even more. Like, it just, like you're saying, there was a calmness. And I'm never usually like that, but I just feel that this team is so well built, both sides of the ball. There's too many strengths for you to even get lucky against. It started in a way that did give you that, oh my gosh, how does this game always somehow go sideways in some weird way? And even the Michigan player headbutting, and there's just something that goes off the rails in this game. And it gave you that feeling out of the gate. So I get it that people were like, oh, here we go. But never once. And I think you're going to feel like that through this Big Ten championship, this playoff run. Indiana is a quality team. I think they're way better than Michigan, better coached, just a better system. So I give them, but I still feel like Ohio State can match anybody and is truly a big brother to a lot of these teams in talent and the way they're coaching. So unless there's some nightmare scenario that we don't know about on the way, I really have a very good feeling. And as for the game, as I started breaking it down, it was what I thought. Michigan didn't have the horses, and they didn't get out of their base coverages enough to take chances, to make plays, to help their team. It was like, we're going to play you like we have in the past, and we're going to let our front just eat you up, where their front probably needed some help. And they didn't bring the safeties down, and maybe they were scared of getting beat over the top. And a couple times, it's funny, we're going to talk about a lot of these breakdowns, but they stayed in cover 4 a lot. And every now and then when they went to a single high safety and they give Jeremiah that one-on-one or Carnell that one-on-one, they paid the price for it. So this offense is truly built in a way where pick your poison defense, come down and, try to stop Bo, and we're going to hit you with Jeremiah or Carnell and vice versa and the tight end. So a lot of this is obvious, but it's nice to be speaking it as a truth against Michigan. And this awesome start. Yeah, like it's one thing to say all these cliches, but when you're doing it to Michigan, the 20-play drive, icing it away in the second half like that, I mean, that makes you feel like we've evened the score for what you've done to us.
I said yesterday that 20-play drive might be the greatest field goal drive in franchise history, if you think about it. I think the fact that it spread over 2 quarters, kind of people lost what it was in the moment and how long it lasted. A 20-play drive, I can't remember this. That's almost more than half the number of plays that Michigan ran in the entire game. And I think in light of the physicality discussion and such, it was just wonderful. My daughter is 20 years old. She improved to 15-5 against Michigan, by the way. So that gets you in the playoffs no matter what. 5-15 does not get you in the playoff. Okay, Michigan. I will say this. I was confident. I would have been a lot more confident, and I said this yesterday, had I watched the pregame interview that was done earlier in the week with Charles Woodson and Bryce Underwood, in which Bryce Underwood said, it's me versus Matt Patricia. That's all it is. Again, Bryce Underwood, who I don't think is 20 years old yet, and if he is, he's just 20. Matt Patricia has been calling defenses since before Bryce Underwood was born. That was hubris on a level that showed complete. When you hear that comment and then watch the game, that there's a disconnect there. I don't know what he was being sold. And here's the one point I didn't make yesterday that I did as I was explaining my mania and how I told you guys last year I was on C deck with my son. I never go to the games. I got tickets. We were freezing. You can't get into the bathroom. And it was literally like the most bladder-defying, horrible experience of my life. So I figured This year, I was going to do the opposite. I watched it by myself right near the bathroom, sound down. I was going to just upset the apple cart. Here's what you notice when you watch the game with the sound down. What Mark said, Michigan was not very complicated in their offense or their defense. All they tried to do was turn the game into a street fight. They literally were hitting after the echo of the whistle. When you watch without sound, you can tell Ohio State guys were getting cheap shotted. Like the play that everyone remembers is the defensive back getting in Bo Jackson's face. And then that's what Michigan was just trying to muck it up and get you to get outside your brain and make penalties. They weren't trying to beat you at football. When someone knows they can't beat you at the real thing and has to kind of muck it up, once you get through that and realize that, they're toast. And I thought we showed that, which was really wonderful. All right.
So that could be the second storyline. Is like I said last week, I don't think Bryce Underwood is ready for prime time. He showed by his comments and by his play, like you said, there's a disconnect from where Michigan and he thinks he's at to where he's really at. And I was, we watched this film coming out of high school. I was never one to think that he was the truth that was going to save a program the way they threw that, money at him and really made him like this savior. I think that was kind of a mistake. He probably needed a year of, getting ready, like a Julian Sayin year last year. Maybe they needed a Will Howard, skip a year until this kid's ready, because you just don't come in and tell, a Matt Patricia type or any defensive coordinator at that age that it's me versus you, buddy. Let's go. Like, boy, that would have been on a loop in the locker room.
It's incredible. I mean, he's physically gifted. There doesn't take anyone.
No doubt.
He didn't run the ball. I don't remember him running at one time where my heart fluttered.
Is he Braxton Miller?
No
Can
way.
he be Braxton? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to be kind and give this kid a great evaluation, but Braxton played as a freshman, I believe here. I think he was a 4-year starter. I mean, I don't know.
He's nowhere near. Braxton with the football was at times the most electric player on the field, including both teams' skill players. That guy does not have that. I mean, he's a big, strong fella. And I will say this. He did throw one seam route into coverage, which was amazing, and they didn't do it anymore. No, I don't even – I'm just surprised. The game plan.
I hope that doesn't come back to haunt us in a couple of years where he turns into – because that's what he was brought in to be. He was brought in to be a Braxton Miller plot. He's being paid like a Braxton Miller.
This is what I wanted to get to.
Okay. Yeah, so you're on the hook for him. and what this also does is this kind of blocks any other quarterback of any ilk that would really want to go there for the next couple of years, because you've put the haul on this kid. And right now you got to be sitting there going, boy, is this kid built to do this, or will he progress like a lot of freshmen will? I think it's fair.
Well, I've told people this. So back in the day, this is how it used to work when you were a sports writer. And you're covering, for example, you're a sports writer, you're at a game and someone hits a bomb for a touchdown. If you're covering high school football, you do not mention the defensive back's name. Okay? If you're covering college football, pre-NIL, you mention the defensive back's name. You don't pass judgment because you don't really know. And it's a college kid. When it's pro football, you come out guns blazing and you talk about how that defensive back lost the game for the team. You can say whatever you want. You make $12 million. Here's what you're going to start to see. And I'm not going to do this because I don't have the time or the energy. Someone's going to put up Bryce Underwood, $12 million, and someone's going to write next to it all the players someone else got for $12 million. And then you're going to say to yourself, do I want a freshman quarterback who has trouble completing a forward pass, or a starting left tackle, a starting right guard, a third receiver,
the Herschel Walker trade?
Excuse me?
The Herschel Walker trade?
Whatever it is.
But
Minnesota's not calling.
mentality?
That's the problem.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, in the past, you were above that kind of criticism because you weren't technically a pro athlete. My guy throws one bad pass in the opener next year, and he is going to hear it big time. I think he's going to hear it a lot in the offseason. Once again, Ohio State has shown their approach is better. And here's the thing. When you're set up with quarterback in perpetuity, you don't have to drop 12 mil. When you produce quarterbacks and you can coach them up the way we can, you don't have to produce 12 mil. Guess who's going to be the first pick in the draft? Guess who would be the first pick in the draft this year if he was eligible?
Julian.
Correct. Guess who's going to be the first pick of the draft next year?
Julian.
Or Jeremiah. I said this yesterday. We won last year and brought back our two highest regarded players, Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith. They're going to win this year and still bring back their two highest regarded players, and Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sand. And, oh, by the way, do we have a running back to bring back? Yeah, we do. The only team in the top 15 that can bring back its top quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. All right.
Really quick.
Okay.
Regarding Underwood, I think, to be very fair to him, he has both the frame and the skill set to be a star one day.
No question.
He doesn't have the cast around him right now. And frankly, I mean, Michigan didn't even target their best wide receiver once all game. So you can question their game plan there, and also give some credit to Ohio State's coverage for locking him down. But the difference in the
Marsh, you mean, I believe.
Yes, correct. So while Bryce Underwood may be a star one day, and, you know, maybe he reaches his potential, maybe he doesn't, Julian Sain's a star right now, like you guys said. And that's a major difference. When you're hoping a guy to be a star and you know a guy is a star, makes a big difference on the field. All right. Just thought I'd pass that along.
Brian D., don't forget, then teams have to pay for players' potential. No, we had to with Jeremiah. Go look at Jeremiah's first year salary versus this year. I believe it's 5 times difference. So we don't do that.
Also, in fairness, Jeremiah was said to be by many trusted recruiting evaluators that this may be the best high school wide receiver they've ever seen.
Facts. And
whereas Bryce Underwood certainly got a lot of praise sung about him on the recruiting trail, but nobody was saying this is the – I've seen a lot of quarterbacks in my day, and this is the guy. People were saying that about Jeremiah Smith.
Facts. And what's ironic is people also said Brian Kelly might still be around if Bryce Underwood had gone there. So Sharon Moore gets taken out. My guy will have taken out 2 coaches with one fell swoop. Not the best way to go about things. All right. We're going to get to all your questions. We're going to dive into the video. First, Garrick, tomorrow is signing day. Yep. If you look at the cover or you look at the slide for this show, it's Carnell Tate and it's Chris Henry Jr. So we had heard over the last month or so the cacophony of other schools trying to get in with our West Coast wide receiver duo from modern day, Caden Dixon-White and Chris Henry. Oregon and USC making strong plays for them, as we could expect. And I think there was always some chatter. My guess is there was some chatter in their ear. Your your wide receiver coach won't be there when you get there. There was talk of Brian Hartline going to a bunch of places. There was actually some real juice, I think, to the idea of him going to Kentucky. We're not going to dive too much into that because they have hired Will Stein, offensive coordinator at Oregon. But just to let you know, programming note, our guys will be back tomorrow, signing day, and we'll dive deep on all this stuff, get you completely ready for the day, update anything that's happened in the interim. But, Garrick, can you give us a quick primer on what could go down in the next 24 hours or so?
Oh, wow. Open-ended. Okay. Let's just start with the caveat that I've had to remind myself a lot of this the past week, and it's not a fun thing to be reminded of because people that follow recruiting don't want to think about this, but a lot of these high profile kids have agents now, right? And what's the agent's primary job? Do the best service he can to his client to make them, you know, whatever their goal is, to get them in the best spot, to get them the most earning potential. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt, and I have to do my best to filter that out and get the latest of what I'm hearing for you guys. So I bring all that up to say the last 24 hours before signing day happens is usually when the nuttiest stuff comes out. So you're inevitably going to hear some wild stuff happen. There's going to be a lot of message board freakouts. It happens every year. Sometimes we're around your favorite team. Sometimes around your rival's favorite team. Sometimes you have fun with it. Sometimes it comes back and bites you. But that's part of the fun, right? That's part of why we do this. That's part of why this sport is so popular and why recruiting coverage is so popular. It's all in good fun. Now, the meat of what everybody wants to hear. It seems that there's one of two viewpoints in terms of when we talk about Caden Dixon-Wyatt and Chris Henry Jr. Some fans don't want to hear about it. They're sick of hearing about it. Why are we talking about the fact that they may or may not flip every 5 seconds? And to that point, you know what? I get it. I get the fatigue. I get if you understand the viewpoint of just show me when they sign or when they don't, tell me when they go somewhere else. I understand it. But I would be doing a disservice to you guys, the listeners, the readers, whatever, if I didn't tell you what I thought was happening at the time and tell you what was going on in real time. So here's where I'm at with that. And again, my 316 for recruiting is what was true an hour ago may not be true an hour from now. So take this for what it's worth. This is 9:38 on a Tuesday. I believe that Chris Henry Jr. wants to be in Columbus. I think Ohio State's still in a good position, but it would be a disservice to not tell you that Oregon is doing everything it can to make this a really, really tough competition. Now, this is me just speculating. The first part was reasonably informed speculation, but this is just me on my own. I don't think it hurts at all that Oregon's offensive genius is going to Kentucky, especially in the final hours of Chris Henry making a decision. And it certainly does not hurt that Brian Hartline is not going to Kentucky after his name was connected to the Kentucky job yesterday. So, especially since he's going to have to inevitably make the decision over the next 24 hours, theoretically, you would think. If I had to guess right now, I would guess that Chris Henry Jr. sticks with Ohio State. But again, there is that caveat. Watch out for Oregon. Ohio State lost a recruit at the 11th hour to Oregon last year with Naeem Offord and the Nike shoe deal that came with it, right? So you just never know what's going to happen. But as of right now, I still feel good about where Ohio State's at with Chris Henry Jr. I cannot say the same for Caden Dixon-Wyatt. USC's been surging lately, and if I had to guess right now, he hasn't announced it yet, which is always a good sign, but if I had to guess, I would guess he ultimately ends up in the Trojans recruiting class in 2026. So we'll see. It hasn't happened yet. Got 24 hours and we'll know for sure, but maybe a little longer than that, I guess. I guess Jeremiah Smith technically didn't get in his national letter of intent at the time until about 5 p.m. on that Wednesday signing day.
We can document that because Day was on the podium.
Yep. Well, he got the decision that he was coming in about 12:30. He got the knee buckle, but the actual letter didn't get in there until about 5 o'clock that evening. Anyway, so yeah, those are the main two. I'm also watching a little bit about Jaden Ricketts, the other wide receiver. He just took an official visit to West Virginia, in-state Ohio kid. I would lean toward him sticking in the class right now, but I understand why he's was poking around at West Virginia. It's probably an easier path to playing time with the Mountaineers.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. No probably needed there. I understand. But, this is also a kid that's showed up to darn near every Ohio State home game. He said all the right things, and he's an in-state kid. He has a tough decision to make, but I would lean right now he's going to stick with Ohio State. Blaine, and then everyone else wants to know about Blaine Bradford. I don't really sense any panic that he's going to go to LSU. And to quell more worry and speculation, Ohio State's been sending out all these I'm signing with Ohio State graphics to all their recruits if they want to post them on social media. And as of, an hour ago that I saw, Blaine Bradford did post his on Instagram. So seems that there shouldn't be much drama there. But I think that's more – I guess we should not just playing defense, also talk about potential additions too. Yeah, I guess that would be a good talking point. So CJ Brana has been a popular name on this podcast, and for those that don't know, that is the four-star cornerback that is currently committed to the Florida Gators. He took an official visit with Ohio State on November 15th, and Ohio State has been really trying to flip him. It's not necessarily a true must-get because they did get Jay Timmons for that second cornerback spot. They truly needed a second corner, and at this point, I would say getting a third would be a luxury, especially if Jermaine Matthews comes back next year, which who knows whether he will or he won't. But I would say that third quarterback is a luxury. But once they got Jay Timmons, it didn't necessarily become a true need anymore. So I think right now CJ is leaning towards sticking with Florida from what I understand. He just visited Florida again this weekend. It was the first time he was back on campus since he visited Ohio State. And I've always maintained the longer that this recruitment goes, the harder it's going to be for Ohio State to ultimately flip him. But we'll see what his final decision is in the next 24 hours. I know John Summerall, the new coach at Florida, has been doing his best to keep the 2026 Florida Gators commitments intact as best he can. So he's making an effort there, of course. And then a bit of good news. I think that Ohio State might be trending in the right direction with in-state safety Caden Gebhardt. Olentangy prospect, really talented safety. They've reignited contact in the last week or so. I mean, he'll have a decision to make himself whether he honors his Clemson commitment or flips to his home state team. And right now I feel pretty good about where things sit with Caden. So, but again, we'll have to see in 24 hours.
A lot of good stuff in there. I got plenty of comments, but I'll hold them for the results. All right, Mark. We decided to do 2 videos this week. If you are playing at home and just listening to the podcast, this is one of those days you want to go to our YouTube page, make sure you find a version of this and watch, because it's impressive. And Mark's going to narrate his work here, but you kind of want to see it to believe it. Mark, take it away.
Yeah, this was the first time we've kind of done something like this where we went all third downs or all defense. And it's kind of cool because you get to kind of see the theme of what Michigan was doing on different yardages and different distances and how they played Ohio State throughout the day. They did a lot of cover 2 or cover 4. Ran a 3-4 scheme. You can see it pretty clearly right there. Ohio State's running a simple waggle concept, and I'll stop this here in a second. You're picking on these 2 guys at the top of the sheet. This guy has the flats, basically 0 to 10 yards. The safety has over the top. So you're going to kind of try to high-low this flat defender is what they're going to call him. And it's a pretty simple thing. The tight ends are in here, and they're blocking for a second, which really sells these guys on the run fake and gives them a feel that they're going to have to play downhill. And then you see both tight ends release, and then the corner's in a bind. Do I run up and cover this guy and leave someone over the top? Simple throw here, even with a little pressure in the face. That's a simple throw on a third down and well executed. Nice design. And that's a play that every football team in America runs, and Ohio State's using it on a third down versus Michigan. Here we go. You see the cover 2 or cover 4. You notice this guy up in the face of the receiver. It seems like they were trying to give Jeremiah Smith a little, bump and run all day. They really weren't going to give him a free release. So you see that mixed in, and it's going to be important when we do the next reel on how that confused Julian Sayin. Cover 2, if you know anything about it, you're going to stack these 5 defenders right on this first down marker, and Ohio State's going to try to find a hole in there. And this is a tough place to find a hole in this coverage. Ohio State does it. They use a widener, a flat defender to pull the widest guy, and then they're going to hook up right in behind the guy that's going to cover this flat. This isn't open for long. It's a quick window. They do a good job of getting this ball in there, and, of course, with Julian Sayin's processing. But you see this little window open up, and this to me was you called this into the teeth of the defense, so we're kind of lucky we got away with having a window that opened up here. You can see he's tackled the second he gets the ball, has to actually fight for that extra yard there. So that one was maybe a good call by the Michigan defense, and we got away with it there. The cover 2, cover 4, again, you see a DB up in the face of Jeremiah Smith. They're really making a point not to let him get off the ball. You see the nickel coverage in, so you have a speed player. Basically, if you know anything about this coverage, on the outside, it's just one-on-one. And with the speed of Tate and these guys, it pushes those corners off, and then it's just an easy pitch and catch. I mean, that is simplifying football into, hey, can we protect? And let's talk about the protection for a second. The offensive line protection was awesome again. Another week of, no one in Julian's face to make a lot of these throws.
Fourth down here.
Yeah, 4th down, 5-man rush. So this is the first time you're going to see a cover 3. Okay, and what cover 3 means, or cover 1, is you're going to have one safety. I would have my safety in the middle of the field or cheated towards who, guys? Jeremiah Smith. Okay, like I definitely wouldn't have him camped over to this hash over the center, guarding, that part of the formation. So at the snap, I'm sure Julian's saying to himself, oh my gosh, here's my first chance with a one-on-one. And we have a double move call, which, who wants to cover Jeremiah Smith, but who wants to cover him when he's running a double move. You can see the safety. Julian's going to do his best to hold him as long as he can with his eyes. Look down the middle, pretend like you're maybe going to this tight end right here. And then at the last second, you're just going to rely on your receiver to win. And I think they had in the game plan, we're just going to take shots to, our best player, then late to the ball because you're camped.
Can we talk about the throw? Can you talk about the throw real quick?
Yeah. Okay. So when you're
we
a quarterback,
take that for granted. We take that for granted. I'm telling you, he's throwing handoffs.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of these throws for granted with quarterbacks. I don't realize how much that they coach quarterbacks to put this ball on the outside shoulder. And they tell the receiver to run down the numbers. So when it's on the outside shoulder, it fades you away from the coverage. That's why they call it a fade. You have this room right here to be pulled away by the ball. And the way Julian puts that towards that outside shoulder, keeps it away from the safety, keeps it away from the guy in front of him. And Julian's passes come down with an extremely high arc. I think we've talked about this before where he throws a rainbow ball. It's definitely one of those balls like a punt that turns over in the sky and all of a sudden the spiral's headed straight down at the ground. He really brings it over the defender. So I think we don't appreciate how great of a deep ball thrower we have. Okay, so again, we're on a third down here and 5, and you see that cover 2, cover 4 shell. You see a guy in the face, and you see the nickel DB in, which they're trying to match the speed of the receivers. This play is run a couple times, and you call it different things where if the first guy goes up the field, you're like a boat following in his wake or like a jet skier kind of hiding behind him, and then you're going to slingshot across on a slant route. And if it's man-to-man coverage, it's really hard for them to get over the top of that. You see it on the goal line a lot. So Ohio State's going to use that, and it works versus zone or man coverage. I think we have it on this reel 3 times, and this is the first of the 3. You see him hide, he goes off, and what also makes this work is there's a screen pass on the other side. You see the tight end pulling out and the running back. The middle linebacker has to honor that. If that middle linebacker drops into this area to cover that up, the ball is immediately going to the swing pass, and you're down the field for a big gain and an easy throw there. So what a play call. What a bind to put this middle linebacker in. And, yeah, this is about as simple as a pitch and catch. Dan could have thrown that into there because there's so much room. And, okay, that looks good. You're going to see this a couple more times on this film against different coverages out of different formations. Here it is again, and you're going to see a motion here that kind of lets you know that it's man-to-man. You see the assignments here out of the defense, and you can't just line up outside of this guy all the time or they're going to know it's coming. So you kind of motion in, and then you come right back to that spot, and it's going to be the same thing. You're going to follow this receiver, and then this is truly man-to-man. How is this defensive back going to fight through this? Is he going to go under and chase you from behind, or is he going to try to go over the top where it's way too late? And, again, that's about as simple as a concept as you can run and keep getting away with it. Okay, cover 3 shell. You see the 3 linebackers underneath. Because it's trips, they had to go to cover 3, and that's going to leave 6 in the box. That's a plus run for Ohio State. You see 6 in the box. Let's just put a body on a body.
Why would they do that on 3rd and 1?
Because of Jeremiah Smith, I would have to assume, and Carnell Tate, where they've been used to having a defensive line that can hold up on that. And you know what? I'm going to foreshadow one of the first plays where they had their running back Jordan Marshall break away. Yeah, Michigan did on the first play of the game. We break that down in part 2. We had 5 in the box. Okay, so sometimes you roll the dice and gamble and you think they might be doing something else, but you're right. If you have 2 plays called and you see 6 in the box, you're instructed, run the ball at 6 in the box. And hats off to our offensive linemen for winning the 6-on-6 battle there. Okay, quarterback sneak here. They got their 3 big guys inside. They're expecting a quarterback sneak. Julian does a good job of letting this kind of surge get out in front of him, and then he pushes into the back of the offensive lineman, and then he gets a little push. But that looked like a 2-yard quarterback sneak more than a 1-yard quarterback sneak. So
it sure did.
I think we got away with one there where they might have said, hey, we're going to run 2 of them in a row on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Let's just be safe here. But hats off to the line search, something that people have been critical about Ohio State is, can our offensive line blow people off the ball consistently? Against Michigan, the answer is yes. Cover 3, you see up in the face. Michigan's going to send 3 off the edge here. Now you can see they're getting a little impatient, and they kind of want to make something happen. This was one of the first, bigger blitzes of the game. And guess what play they're going to run? That same pick or rub. You're going to see the guy go first, and then the outside guy simply – it's a different formation, but it's the same concept. Run at this guy. Now, I don't know why Julian didn't hit this. He's staring at it. He sees it. Maybe he thinks someone was coming downhill. But this end line of scrimmage has already been caved down. There's a guy on the ground. So in the snow, it may have been like a safe thing to do where we don't put the ball at risk, drop pass or anything, and just go get the first down. But he had that same rub route again. Like I said, we're going to see a theme here. Here it is, guy in the face of Jeremiah Smith, the cover 2 or cover 4 shell pre-snap, 7 in the box. But this is a short yardage, so I think Ohio State's just going to stuff in there because they have a fullback and a tight end to match up numbers-wise. The gap blocking scheme has been very good to them. The kick-out block here. What's unique about this is anytime this end runs way up the field here, it's called opening the gate. Unless he can sting you back here in the backfield, which is very few.
You just take it on, though.
Yeah, you just got to get a piece of them, and it kind of opens the gate. And that's a desperate thing for a defensive player to do. Like they're trying too hard at that point to make a play instead of staying square on the line and squeezing it down. They're anxious, and you can see by the score, I'd be anxious too. Same thing, much shorter quarterback sneak, lets it set up here a little bit. Julian's got some patience on these, which is pretty unique. A lot of quarterbacks just stuff it up in there really quick and hope that it opens up. I think he's actually given it a pause step before he hits the quarterback sneak. And another great surge. These gap blocks were really good for us, pinning these guys inside.
This is 4th and 1 too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what we wanted to see out of this offensive line. Could you line up in these goal to go or 4th and 1 situations and play this power football? This is the Jim Tressel's favorite play where he pulls the guard around to lead up on the linebacker. This hole's not big. I mean, it's enough. I mean, it's the slide through there and, make your play on 4th down. But that's what that type of down and distance is about. Great job by that offensive line. I think we were looking for a game for them to assert themselves in that 20-play drive and some of the run plays and the surge there when the defense knows you're in short yardage was definitely a Buckeye surge.
Mark, that was spectacular. I don't usually allow the entire reel to run, but given where we're at here and we got another one coming, that lets you know what you're missing if you're not getting premium content. All right, let's get some. Do you have questions, people? Do you need to know anything about Ohio State? I agree with that completely. Mark's film breakdown class would definitely be full, interesting stuff, no question. Well, we can talk about Coach Hartline briefly. I think there were some thoughts he might go to Kentucky. He's got some connections there. I believe his brother played there. Well, someone once told me this. It was actually a little different situation, but I don't see, if I were Brian Hartline, this is hypothetically, I don't see him taking a job with a team in a conference where the team is not a threat to win the title. Does that make sense? I don't think he needs to leave for a Kentucky. Now, he's in a position of great strength. I'll tell you this. I don't know if you guys remember the Miller brothers who coach in basketball. Archie used to coach here in Dayton. And someone was told me they only leave and they only take jobs where they know they can win the league. So Arizona, Xavier in basketball, Kentucky in football in the SEC, you are not winning, okay? But barring – I don't know what would have to happen. So I don't see that happening. Yeah, I just don't see it happening. And when we talk about Hartline, it's not the normal situation. One, he's arguably the most, and I would argue this. Is there any coach in any team, anywhere, at any level, doing a better job than Brian Hartline is doing with the Ohio State wide receivers? That's a hard thing to answer. I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there in a lot of sports. I've never seen anyone do as or better than Hartline. So got a good thing. Keep in mind, he did not arrive as a destitute GA living in a cedar, a cinder block room with his wife and 2 kids. My guy came here financially independent. And this is a great gig. So I would think it's a little different than others. I do find it quite ironic that one of Oregon's pitches to the receivers was you're going to lose your offensive coordinator, and their offensive coordinator is the one who left after all that time. I'm not sure what that effect has. All right. This is a football question for Mark. Does the current Ohio State team do any wham blocking with the tight end like they did all day against Oregon in the 2014 championship? Mark, first explain what a wham block is.
Yeah, because there's so many languages, I'm going to assume, and I'd like to know what he thinks is a wham block. I think it's when the tight end leads up on the middle linebacker, or the tight end can be kicking out a 3 technique. I'm not sure exactly what he means by a wham block, but some of the kick out blocks in this last game were by our tight ends because we used 3, 4, 5 tight ends in a game. I haven't seen that much creativity. I don't think we've broken down that tip. I know we did some stuff like that with Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. We had some unique schemes that he would slide in there and give teams something to think about, especially out of the unbalanced. Who knows what will come out of the bag here down the stretch. We saw not much different with Ohio State against Michigan. We just kind of pounded them with the general gap blocking, and there were some counters in there. But if I can get a reply on what he means by wham blocking, I don't think we've seen exactly what he's describing. And I was a tight end, and I've heard a lot of different ways. Yeah, the guard runs I mean, that's a different block where instead of the guard kicking out the 3 technique, the tight end does. Yeah. We don't have that on film yet.
Speaking of tight ends, Will Kazmarek, we do need to shout out. He's the one who caught that little 4-yard first down. By the way, don't forget, that was a little bit of a hairy time in the game. To get that first down was key to kind of break the seal. And then he caught the one down the middle. That was just a beautiful play. I wonder when he was like going through 2-a-days in his first year at OU, did he ever think he was going to be going down the middle in the game, catching a huge play like that? But it sure did. Stick with it, kids. Things can get better. All right. We don't really seem to have that many more questions here. Everyone's just kind of commenting. All right, here we got one. And listen, we will get into the Big Ten championship game in earnest here over the next few days. But we faced some mobile quarterbacks already. Will our defensive tackles and defensive ends be capable versus Mendoza, maintain their lanes, and collapse the pocket? Are our linebackers adequate spies? Yeah.
Easy question. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, we have the personnel. Yeah, Arvell has proven that no matter who he spies, the advantage is him. It's almost like you don't want to waste him as a spy because he's such a good pass rusher. If there is one thing that we have talked about in this podcast all year is that our defensive coordinator has a plan for everything. He has seen these type of quarterbacks. He has a right-handed plan. He has a left-handed plan. He has a plan to play with one arm behind his back. He has probably a plan to play with weaker personnel. I do not think that would be any part of a weakness when we're getting ready to play Indiana. I just think Indiana does a lot of what Ohio State does. We showed you a play where we have that rub route on one side and the screen on the other, and you're really putting guys in dilemmas. I think that's what you worry about with Indiana. Some really tough play calls when they can predict what defense Ohio State's going to be in, which is tough. When you see some of the stuff coming in part 2, Patricia does a good job of giving you one thing, but when they can predict it, I think Indiana will be a little bit of trouble. I think that's what worries me.
Interestingly enough, I almost think the opposite question is more prevalent. And by that, I mean, can Indiana get pressure on Julian Sayin? Because Michigan got next to no pressure on Julian Sayin. And if you can't get pressure on Julian Sayin, Indiana, this won't be a 4-quarter game if they can't get any pressure on the quarterback at all. I'm just calling my shot there. My first thought with Indiana is that they've done a really good job defensively identifying the blocking scheme and picking their spots to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and that's how they've really created chaos from the defensive end. But if they can't do that and they can't force Julian Sayin into uncomfortable decisions, I don't know how they win this game. So that's my kind of key to the game right there.
I think that's a great point. Also, if you go back and watch that reel again, and I would encourage you to do so, note how many 3rd and 4 or less there are. Very hard to come after Ohio State when you don't know if they're going to run or pass it. There were not a lot of 3rd and 12s on there, if any. So if Ohio State's ahead of the chains, that's a tough cover. Last question. What about Baker at running back?
I assume he's referring to Carson Baker, the recent Florida decommit. Ohio State really hasn't had much contact with him of late. At one point, they were a favorite for him, I think in May in the summer area, but I think the Carolinas, both South Carolina and North Carolina, are more prevalent for him. Plus, I think Ohio State's really full at running back anyway. If there was going to be a running back, it probably would have been Amari Latimer, the Wisconsin running back commit. But I think that ship sailed, and they're very content with Faber Akee and Legend Bay, even though Legend Bay is kind of that hybrid Curtis Samuel role. But nonetheless, I think that they're content at running back right now.
There's some interesting talk about Legend Day. If you go to the site right now, our Texas guy, Mike Roach, has some interesting information on there of the Legend of Bay. And we shall see. Keep in mind also, and I'll finish on this, Ohio State's running back is a true freshman. So if you're selling anyone on coming here, they know they're going to be on the pine for a year. And also, get back to your, do we want to pay out Savion Hyder money for a guy to sit on the pine for a year? All right, we could go forever. Got to appreciate these guys, Garrick and Mark. We'll be back tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow. You get no break from these guys. No rest for the weary. We'll be back tomorrow. We will get you set up for signing day. We got more video coming. Have a good one. Nutters.